Welcome to Emotional Sobriety.
Welcome to Emotional Sobriety and Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. We're getting one in just under the wire. We missed you guys last week, but I've got Alan and Tom here, and we are responding to your comments about what you'd like to hear about in regards to emotional sobriety and Christmas. But before we do that, how's it going, Alan and Tom?
I'm good. I'm feeling more like a normal boy every day.
Oh, that's great, Tom. It's
Mm.
good to hear. Nice Christmas present
Yes, very
for
much.
for all of us and all of our listeners to have you back.
hmm
Have
I'm
you helped?
back, and I'm actually eating food with my mouth nowadays. It's like
Oh,
it's just the last couple of days have turned a corner for me. So I don't have a great variety of things I eat, but I just finished a meal, and it feels good to actually be eating like a normal boy, like I said.
fantastic, man. That's good to
Yeah,
hear.
thanks.
And I'm showering standing up now. And so that's
Whoa.
cool. Yeah,
Be
it's
ca- be careful. Be careful,
yeah.
man.
No, I know. But I mean, just to get under the water and to just really do like the full deal.
Oh
And
God,
by the
yeah,
way,
no kidding.
I'm sure you guys are all just on the edge of your seat to hear about this. But I just had to share my excitement because I wasn't able to do that for the last
No, I'll tell you
month
what,
and a half.
any to talk about empathy though, anybody who's ever been in a situation like that where you couldn't shower, it's like no, there's plenty of people listening who've done that before and can appreciate and support the idea. That's a wonderful relief.
Well, thank you. And so just to get us started here,
Oh, wait, Patrick, let me check in now. Slow down, Patrick. Slow down. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hi.
He's
Let me
slowing
let
down.
me just check in a little bit. Let me check in.
Uh, uh, uh,
So this is my first Christmas without the girls. So I'm
oh
sad.
yes.
So they are in North Carolina with their mom, and that it was it's tough. I decided to fly to LA, so I'm currently in Los Angeles, and I came and I got to celebrate with a bunch of my friends
Mhm.
and take them all off to a wonderful, wonderful show on Friday night and have a great dinner together. But I wanted to share with you guys how I dealt with the situation with Cece because
Mhm.
she didn't want to go without me. She wanted me to join
Mhm.
her in North Carolina.
Yeah, sure.
So we were laying in bed on Tuesday night. I left on Wednesday. They left on Thursday. And she says, "Well, can't you just go ask mom one more time about going with us? Maybe
hmm
mom will change her mind, right?" Of
hmm
course
Yeah.
not, right? She's not going
Mhm.
to change her mind. And so, I woke up and, I've been struggling with this hip flexor. I strained my hip flexor, Tom, in my left leg, and I've been limping around and in a lot of
Yeah.
pain, in tremendous amount of pain, unable to sleep. So I was having trouble falling asleep, and I decided I've got to do something to deal with this situation with Cece, right? So this is what I wrote. I thought I should tell you the real reason I can't go to North Carolina with you and mom and Maddie. It's supposed to be a secret. But given how upset you were last night, I thought I should tell you. As you know, I'm a psychologist, and Santa saw one of my videos on the internet and reached out to me to see if I could help. You see, one of his reindeers became afraid of flying. Well, as you know, that would create quite a problem since Santa has to fly all over the world to deliver presents to boys and girls near and far. Santa asked if I could come up to the North Pole and help Dancer, one of his reindeers, with his sudden fear of flying. Dancer never had this problem until last week, so Santa was desperate to find some help. Now, I had to think long and hard about this decision because I really wanted to be with you and mom and Maddie. But after all, Santa Claus has a very, very big job to do. And if I don't help him, then he might not be able to fly to all the places that he needs to go with one less reindeer,
Especially Dancer.
especially Dancer, right?
Yeah.
Especially
Right.
Dancer. I hope you understand. Santa did promise me that I could fill up one of my suitcases with all kinds of gifts for you and Maddie. And I told him I'd accept the job and off I go tomorrow. I know you will understand because you too care about others like I do. See you soon. Merry Christmas from Dad and Santa. I love you.
Sweet. Love it. Love it.
I was trying to think about what could I do to take maybe some of the sting out of that, right?
Yeah.
For her and for me as well, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it meant a lot for me to be able to give her something like that.
Hmm.
Of course, Maddie's 10 and she, yeah, right, Dad. That's what I
Right, right.
heard. But, Cece was a little skeptical. Yeah, is Dad really up there? But then later on, when I talked to her on the phone, she says, "Well, Dad, how is it in the North Pole?"
And
Cold.
what and the subtext, what's being communicated there is that it's all good. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of an attitude of chill and of let's all adjust to these new circumstances and to keep the love between us strong, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Beautiful. That's beautiful.
yeah. I thought I'd share that with you guys on this Christmas Eve. It's a
Hmm.
nice little cup of warm chocolate.
Well played, Alan.
And I just want to throw it out there that
But
when
I wanted to say this, Patrick, before you go though. But see, one of the things I was thinking about after I did this, one of the things that we talk about curiosity a lot and how important it is in terms of emotional sobriety. But there's another word that begins with C that's also important, and that's creativity.
Hmm.
Is being able to find creative and novel solutions to situations that are challenging you and confronting you. And that means you got to live in that gap between the stimulus and the reaction,
Right.
because it's only in that gap that you're going to be able to mobilize that part of yourself, that part of our brain that might be able to look at a situation that is baffling and think of a very, very unique response to it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I just want to emphasize that going into, Christmas, because look, we're going to be all challenged with all kinds of things, and getting together with family is always, always wonderful and exciting and also draining and challenging and provocative and evoking and and
Hmm.
triggering and all those other things as well. It's like there's always two sides of that coin. And so I'm just saying, this Christmas, we all have a lot of opportunities to practice our emotional sobriety, to stay grounded, not to take things personally, to try to be a part of the solution, not the problem. I mean, that's the spirit of Christmas for us. And it's a wonderful time to practice some of the things that we've been
Hmm.
doing all year.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
I noticed your expressions of gratitude recently when we all met for dinner that I thought was very profound in light of all the challenges this year. And I thought that you had the right idea to just try and use your time because, you've got a lot of commitments. So I imagine, you need to be pretty structured and kind of mindful when it comes to like your schedule. But scheduling that time to sit down with everybody and to have a toast, a non-alcoholic toast, obviously, and then to spend some time afterwards, sharing like a musical experience together. But especially just making sure that I noticed that you addressed me person to person and you addressed everybody that you invited to the event. And, like that's like, taking an extra 5 minutes a piece to kind of like let everybody know how important they are to you. And, that's something I hope to emulate, coming out of 2023.
Well, I'm glad
Nice.
I've inspired you. And, next year I'm going to be bringing Tom and Dee Dee out, and we're
Hmm.
going to all get together and go to True Foods again and watch that play again, because this is my fourth time seeing it, and each time I'm so touched and inspired by it. One of the most creative plays I've ever seen, Tom.
I had a client that was in that in the earlier days of it, and I remember she was just heartbroken when her schedule was such that she wasn't going to be able to do it anymore because she loved doing that.
Yeah, it's been going for 14 years. This was the 14th
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
So yeah, she was way back in the beginning, I imagine.
yeah. It was many years ago now,
The
but
the
I,
author of the script, or the play, is Mark Wilson, and it's changed a lot since he put it together. I mean, a lot. So
that's
it,
cool.
it didn't have the gospel feel that it has today, and I think the gospel feel is so cool with the Beatles songs. All right,
Good.
Patrick, now we're ready.
Well, I thought we would start with a question about family of origin. how to avoid slipping back into broken and dysfunctional family of origin roles while gathering with said family of origin. So I suppose this question has to do with
Hmm.
how can we bring emotional sobriety to a situation where, you're around some negative stimuli, and it's coming from the family, and you got to be careful not to backslide, I guess, into, negative patterns.
I'll start because I got an immediate one for that. Don't wait to the last minute. This is really important. Do not think that you're going to be able to walk in. When we walk, we've all been in those places where we walk across the threshold of wherever our parents live, whether that be our old home or not, where our parents are, and we immediately age regress back to our childhood. It's like you have to be prepared for that, in my opinion. You really need to. You need the best preparation. It doesn't mean a lot of preparation, even if you're sitting in the back room and your parents are out in the living room right now. What you need to do is you need to make contact with that adult part of yourself, the part of you that is what I always say, the parent that your child has always been waiting for. Be the parent to your inner child. There's one way that you're not your inner child, and that is if you're talking to your inner child. And so I say go into it proactively, talking to your inner child, and mainly say to your inner child, in my opinion, this has worked for me for a long time when I was still with my parents, is is I would just tell my inner child, I got this. You don't have to do a thing. Don't worry. You can stand behind me, or I could sometimes visualize him just out having a nice time. So my adult self went in to those family situations. My adult self was the one that interacted, and it made all the difference in the world.
First of all, Tom, I just love your response. I think there's a lot of gems in what you said, a lot of great tips. And I want to add one other thing, that I think is so important. We spend a lot of time talking about curiosity, right? And its
Yes.
role in emotional sobriety. And God, it plays such an important role. I think the fact that we've been able to bring that to the foreground this year and encourage people to stay aware of that, to be curious in those situations and to really investigate what's going on, especially when they're upset, and try
Mhm.
to really dig down and get to what is really happening here. What are my expectations? How is my emotional dependency showing up in this situation?
Mhm.
But the other C word that we haven't talked about is creativity.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, I'm finding that that is such an important part of emotional sobriety too, is to be able discover a creative response to a situation that is baffling you, that you're struggling with, that you don't know what to do with. And and
Mhm.
and look, and the only way that's possible is what we've been talking about, for this whole year, is to be
Mhm.
able to live in that space, in that gap between the stimulus and our reaction.
Mhm.
In that gap, we can find in that space to take this situation that we're struggling with and to be able to um, find a new solution to it. And look, one of the ways that we do this and is first of all is to, if we're finding ourselves reacting, is don't get obsessed with yourself about it like something's wrong with your program. Of course you're reacting. These habits have been going on for a long time. We're not going to, turn this stuff around overnight. Sometimes it takes years to turn these things around. So don't be discouraged. Don't be dismayed. Say, oh my God, here it is. Yep, this is it. This is the thing that I still got to work on. I got to still struggle with. Embrace it. See, we get our freedom by realizing we're the determined one, not by just trying to not be determined. It's that paradoxical theory of change. And
Right.
once we get that, then it can open up the possibility. Now, how might I respond to this differently?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm always withdrawing right now. Instead of going in the other room, what if I sit here this time while I'm feeling this and try to add more of myself, like Alan and Tom and Patrick have been talking about? What would that look like for me? And like you said, Tom, it's sometimes it's telling your inner child, "Hey, man, I got this." You sit with me.
Well,
You won't
you know, I think
you won't-
you're making a great connection to what I was saying, which is because when you tell people, when I tell people, you know, let's work on developing that adult self to come in and do this stuff, you know, very often the responses you get and we all remember having them, and it's just, I don't know how. How do I do that? It's like, because it's not something we knew and forgot. It's something we never had. So it takes creativity. It's like the idea is, don't be dismayed, like you say, the fact that you start kind of with a blank slate. But you know, just the idea of saying, I'm going to go into my family and I'm going to be my best adult self, and I'm going to think of my best adult self as taking good care of my inner child. That's all imagination. That's all creativity. When you first begin it, it's like, try it out. And like you say, even if it's not working so well, that's why we have support people in our telephones. That's why we connect with each other, and then we work on it and do that. But only by experimenting and being creative are we going to find our way to new ways of being. So I love that. Yeah, I love how your response just folds into mine. It's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
really does,
Look,
man. See, and that's and look, this is what is exciting about this is that emotional sobriety is about discovering novel solutions to old problems.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the exciting thing. Look, this is one of the things that's kept you and I excited
Mm-hmm.
about talking about this. I mean, how many on a Thursday night meeting, Patrick, how many videos do we now have posted on the YouTube channel? Over 100, right?
oh yeah, definitely. And a couple hundred podcast episodes, more than that. So
I mean,
yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
think about that. And we're still talking about new stuff. And we're still
Absolutely.
discovering new things. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I think is so unique about what we get to do with this. There is such a wealth of wisdom to mine in terms of this emotional sobriety issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the first present we put under a tree. What's the next one, Patrick?
This is a good one. It's about joy in emotional sobriety. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just punt it to you guys by first saying that my relationship to joy is very distorted and confusing because of my past with addiction. And I think like what I'll bring from the last question to this one is adding more self. Like staying with our feelings and kind of trying to be as present in each moment as we can, good and bad. Might be a pathway to joy, but of course I'll ask you guys because yeah, this comment had to do with joy and emotional sobriety.
Adding more self is beautiful. That is such an important part. That's one of the things that I've learned from you, Alan, about so much of this stuff is because you know, we're always, people try to get rid of all things in their head. I wish I wasn't feeling this way or thinking this way, but what we really need to do is not subtract but add. And it's adding, and I love that idea of add more self.
Yeah.
I mean, how radical is that from for those of us who have had such low self-esteem? Oh, what this situation needs is more me. You know,
Yeah,
that would have been insane in the years past for me.
Right, and when the word joy comes up around the holidays, what comes to mind is this kind of like supposed to about Christmas, right? That it's got to be this time where everybody is just bubbling with affection for each other, and we're all kind of automatically at our best because look at all the decorations and look at the turkey being carved and on and on and on, right? When it's not, we don't cease to be ourselves just because it's a new date on the calendar.
Well, and don't you just brought up a really good one too, Patrick. Don't let it become a should. Because that's so easy. See what you, I should be feeling joy this because it's this holiday. It's like, no, not necessarily at this moment, but in the next, you be open to it. But the idea is there's no absolute should way we're supposed to be experiencing these holidays. Yeah, I don't believe.
Let me say what one of the things that I think is really becoming quite obvious to me through this experience I'm having. I often heard, and I've understood this at so many levels, is that you can't say no unless you can really say yes, and you can't say yes unless you really say
Mm-hmm.
no.
Yep.
And there's a corollary here to joy. you can't really fully experience joy and happiness unless you can fully embrace sorrow and sadness. It's not going to happen. You see, they're just opposite sides of the same pole, right? They're are human reactions to different situations and events in our life. And if me as a person is unable to tolerate my sadness and sorrow, and not allow myself to cry if I need to cry, to rage if I need to rage, to break down if I need to break down, then I'm not going to be able to fully experience the wonders of life and joy. It's like the darkness allows me to appreciate the light. If I fully can embrace the light, it'll help me understand the darkness more. And you see, that's kind of the key, is to understand that there's nothing happens in our life that doesn't involve the other pole. The other pole, always something is something else at the same time. Somebody said to me, and it makes a lot of sense, right? That if there's going to be a joy, there's going to be sorrow. If there's going to be happiness, there's going to be sadness and disappointment. Now, I think we're a culture that only wants one side of that pole. I want to be happy, 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 joy, 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 joy. The Ren and Stimpy. I don't know if you ever saw that commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a parody of this whole thing that we do in this society. Happy, happy, joy, 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 joy. We all want that side. But see, what we don't understand is that it's not a wisdom-based culture. And the wisdom that I'm finding out is it's important to embrace our human experience fully, whatever that may be.
Well, and that's Alan. Think about this too, because that's a mixed bag, and one more thing that we're not in control of in terms of how the emotions line up when we open to our emotional experience. I think we can all I can talk about it from a first person point of view, but let's talk about it from a point of view of being a therapist. How when we're working with somebody and they do open to feelings, think about how often these feelings just show up in ways that are surprising to everybody, including the client. So the idea is you may be in this really deep, painful space as you're processing this, but right in the middle of that, there may be a laughter. There may be a moment of just absolute joy where we just fall on the floor, tears in our eyes, laughing so hard. And it's not the kind of laughter that's about to just trying to distract us away from the pain. It's just how our emotions line up. They come in layers. And so sure enough, if I'm sitting here telling you how angry I am, if I really let myself feel that anger and have that, then the next thing I may feel is a great deal of sadness, because that's what's underneath the anger. And in the middle of that, there may be something, I may say something that is just fucking hilarious. It's like, because, and we enjoy, and we experience the joy, because so the joy is actually being in touch with our feelings. It's not just, so it's not even fair to say feeling sad is not feeling joy, because I'm going like, and I think about how shut down some people can be, and I have been in my life, to feelings. There's a joy to just knowing I can feel all of these things.
Right. That's well said, Tom. Very well said.
Yeah.
There's a joy in being human. There's
Yes.
a joy in embracing this experience that we're all having.
Right. And it's not necessarily happy all the time.
It's not. And
Yeah.
look, and it doesn't have to be. And look, that's part of what my gratitude was on Friday night, Patrick. And I've said this to Tom too, is that this was a very tough 9 months. You guys know more than anybody.
Yeah.
From seeing, at the rawest moments, at the times when I was most devastated, what was going on with me, and talking to me about it. And we even aired a lot of me sharing that stuff, right? But one of the things that helped me get through this was you guys. Was knowing I had you guys in my corner, and that you were always pulling for me. You were always checking in on me. You cared about me when I wasn't caring a lot about anything at time. And you guys carried me through.
Yep.
It was like back in the Marine Corps, our slogan was never leave anybody behind. You guys threw me on that fireman's carry, and you You walked with me another 10 yards until I
Mhm.
was able to get enough strength back and start to walk myself a little bit.
Yep.
And that's also the important part of this, man, is that, letting ourselves be vulnerable and allowing myself, and this, as you guys know from all this self-reliance stuff that I talked to you about, how I really adopted that in this sense of
Mhm.
invulnerability, allowing
Mhm.
myself to be open and vulnerable and letting you guys a part of my life has been such a
Mhm.
big shift for me. This has been a
Mhm.
year of a lot of pain, and as we say, and it's, we hear it all the time, but also it's been a touchstone of my growth.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's interesting because I really identify with that, with going through even though our situations are quite different, going through what felt to me at certain times as the isolation of the cancer treatment I was doing, and it's a lot of that. I look with hindsight, I can see I was responsible for a lot of the isolation myself, nevertheless, I was feeling alone and isolated. And one of the things that you remind me of is how just something as simple as a text from one of you guys would remind me, that just basically reminds you you're not alone. And to get that, and if I just make the effort to respond to that text, I'm, just that I'm connected. I'm no, so and the reason, and the fact that you guys were there, and the guys that you it was good to hear from you guys. It was always good to hear from Roger. Roger always made me laugh, no matter what I was feeling at the time. He would say something nice, but I would be laughing. It makes a difference. You're not alone anymore. It's a reminder.
Right on. Um, how to survive family dinners, opening presents, social interactions, and societal pressures during this time of year. This is a omnibus question, but I figure you guys have a lot to say about it.
Well, say it one more time. See, sometimes it takes a minute to absorb what the person's saying. What they said, how
Yeah.
to,
Survive family dinners, opening presents, social and societal pressures during the holiday season.
well, don't gulp your food is the first thing. Watch
Mhm.
out for choking. No, how to survive. See, that might be the wrong. It's almost like going up to serve and saying, "I don't want a double fault." Right. And, Tom, you've heard Tom say it and you've heard me say it. The mind doesn't understand a negative.
Right.
So if I go in and saying, hey, with a different kind of mindset, man, I'm curious of what's going to happen today. Instead of
Hmm.
thinking about surviving, think about being curious about it. God, it's going to be interesting how things play out. I wonder if it's going to be the same as it was last year, different. I wonder if I can respond. You see what I mean? If we bring a curiosity to it, almost a playfulness, you don't
Hmm.
have to survive it. You
Right.
can
And that's hard. I take that back because
very
I
hard.
I love I love advising people on playfulness, because I mean, if I could just retire and do that, that would be a great job for me. Just basically, I'm just going to advise you on how to be a smart ass at your family dinners.
You
I
can
would love
probably
to.
pull that off pretty good, Tom. I
I
know
would
you can.
love to do that, because one of my favorite things to tell people during the holidays is, look, when all else fails, look somebody dead straight in the eye and just say, "Listen, I've got to get out of here. I'm late for my Homicides Anonymous meeting." And then if that doesn't quite get them, you say, "I've almost got 3 days clean." They'll get out of your way. Just when in doubt, say something bizarre. But I also know that people aren't ready for that immediately. So I like the idea that you go take it back to the curiosity. Is like, even if it's not something you're necessarily saying or doing differently, use your imagination and imagine how you might respond differently. What you say. And one of the real clear ways to do it is because we always have that unique response we have to our own families. It's like, if when my mom was still alive, if you guys had met my mom, you would just see a little old lady, and maybe a nice little old lady on some days, but most of the time you'd probably, in the latter years of her life, a mean little old lady, and that would have been what you experienced. She didn't scare the holy crap out of you. she scared it didn't matter how old I was. She had the power to scare the holy crap out of me because of the original programs in there. And so, in the process of recovering from that, we need to be respectful of ourselves and know that no, this is deep stuff. This is long-standing stuff that you're responding to. So be kind to yourself first of all,
Yeah, and don't
and
say, of course. I say that all the time. If you find yourself reacting, say, of
yeah,
course I am. Look, it's part of the programming I got.
it's absolutely. But the idea is play with it. How might I do this differently? Might I try something? If you want to try something as bizarre as tell them about Homicides Anonymous, go for it. But otherwise, it may just be, for me. And I think I'll go back to my original thought for the first question is what I found was the more I had a good therapist teach me how to be the parent to that inner child, and the more I came in touch with my family as an adult, the easier this became because as an adult, I could actually communicate with even my parents in ways that we had great conversations at times that I would have never thought possible. And it wasn't because they were changing; it was because I was changing.
Right.
So give yourself a chance to have. We don't control other people, but we do influence. And if you hang in there and if you try some things differently, you just might influence other people to respond differently.
Yeah, what I would add to that is also try to really keep your integrity, meaning don't erase your
Amen. Amen.
don't do something you don't want to do. See if you can hold on to yourself this Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's hard, if somebody says, "Hey, could you help out over here?" and say, I'd really like to, but I'm really not feeling moved to do that. Can you tell me what makes it important for me to help out? Then maybe I can
Yeah.
figure out, I can
Yeah.
mobilize myself to
Mm-hmm.
do it. But really try to hold on to yourself. I mean, really try, because this is the biggest challenge I think we all have. It's so easy to get lost in that togetherness
Yeah.
and to start doing things because we want to be a part of, even if we don't want to be a part of.
Right.
That's the pressure a lot of us feel in these situations. And I know it's not easy. And I'm not saying create World War III, but I am saying to see if you can find a creative way to hold on to yourself and not get
Mm-hmm.
alienated from other people.
Right. And,
That's
and sometimes that can be in real practical ways. You remind me I remember the time, a time when I was going to do this blasphemous thing in my family, which was I was going to be there for the holidays, but Dee Dee and I were not going to, we had decided we're not going to stay at my parents' house. Now, see, in our family, the invisible policy manual is that's what you do. You must stay there. It's disrespectful not to. They didn't even have room in the damn house for the people that they had there. But it was and it was scary as hell for me to let my mom know. My dad my dad didn't care. Let my mom know that we were going to stay at a hotel that was a mile down the street from their house. That's just it. We were going to go sleep there and be back the next morning. That's all we were going to do. And it was as if you would have thought I had just broken her heart in half. And so one of the things I remember doing that year was just really getting lots and lots of support of people just reminding me that I wasn't, that I probably hadn't killed my mom, that she still was going to survive it. And she played a lot of games around it and that stuff. But the truth is, by the next year, she actually when we talked about holidays, she said, would you like me to make a reservation for you at the hotel? Now there was a little edge to it. She was still playing a game, like hey, you want me to do that? But what I had learned to do is respond to her as an adult, and I said, no, it's okay. I've already made the reservation. And we were done because she didn't want to go into all of that stuff. We didn't have to talk about it all. I just needed to make that change and realized and had to, and my little kid inside had to realize that the adult can do that, and I wasn't going to destroy myself or my mother or anybody else. And because a lot of times in that invisible policy manual that we all have in our families, it's like, yeah, we're not thinking about it, but we feel petrified because the message is if we step outside of the bounds, that something horrible is going to happen. but it's not.
Yeah.
If you hang in there, the integrity that you're talking about, Alan, just stand there, stand your ground there. It's okay. Be kind, but be firm, be assertive.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
what I will add that I'm kind of a Padawan in this experience, the
Mm-hmm.
emotional sobriety journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I take note of what Alan said about don't self-erase in order to be a part
Mm-hmm.
of, because
Yep.
I'll tell you what my strategy has been 5 years into sobriety,
Mm-hmm.
has been clean, cook, um, find ways to kind of like externally either architect or kind of like, be helpful in the mix and keeping my hands busy, because
Mm-hmm.
all I would do before my sobriety date is I would just try to find any opportunity to get a load on, or just to kind of find some way to melt into the background of whatever was happening in a
Yeah.
way that was like minimally destructive. And so the change in my recovery around the holidays has been, well, I'm showing up. I've got both feet firmly planted, and I'm gonna get in there, and I'm just gonna try to outwardly focus.
Mm-hmm.
What's this thing that I can how can I serve the people that are coming for the holiday? How can I,
Mm-hmm.
keep the house from tipping over? But I'll take your comments as like a invitation to maybe just like look inward a little bit, or kind of like find creative ways to kind of
Yeah.
yeah, I guess to not be so manically trying to kind of like I don't know, be extra, I guess, on the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that's definitely what was the attitude I was going to be going into tomorrow with, but maybe there's a way that I
Well,
can kind of like add self to that.
I'll see what you're doing is what we're asking people to do is be aware of becoming automatic.
Yeah.
No, is if you bring an awareness to this, you've got a chance now to have a new experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the possibility that awareness creates. If you
Mm-hmm.
just go in a reactive mode and you put yourself on an autopilot, so you'll just
Mm-hmm.
react the way you've always reacted. But
Yeah.
this is an opportunity. Try to increase your awareness by 10% even. It's going to make a huge difference as you show up.
Yeah.
Now, the
Yeah.
other thing is, and I love what Tom said about this, and I think that this is really important because it is so true in so many ways. A lot of people are going to be worried about how they look and how other people are thinking about them when they go to Christmas,
Right.
right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting. Tom says that we all have low self-esteem, but yet we think everybody's thinking about us.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's such a paradox. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, why is it that me with low self-esteem think I'm that important where everybody's
I'm the
focused?
center. I am the piece of shit the world revolves around.
I
It's
know
like it's
it's
just this weird thing.
It's this weird paradox. So the truth is, everybody's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in that room is worrying about themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
see, sometimes that helps to think about that. If I'm sitting here doing that, guess what? Everybody else is likely to be doing that. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be thinking about me because they're all focused on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that becomes, I think, a very important way to also deal with that self-consciousness, or what Kempler used to call other consciousness, worrying about
Mm-hmm.
what people are thinking.
Yeah.
Is to be able to really take that. And look, the other tip that we want to get into before we lose time today is to not take things personally. If there is
Mm-hmm.
one phrase that you take with you during Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to cheat on this exam, you can write it on the palm of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take
Yeah.
things personally.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it, because it's not. Everybody's doing what they're doing because of who they are, not because of who you are. And it goes back to what Tom said before. We're not that important.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this because of who we are, even if they think they're doing it because of who we are, they're doing it the way they do it because that's who they are, not because of
Right.
who we are.
Right. To me, my experience through the years of working with people during the holidays is even people who do a good job of staying in touch with support people often do a bad job doing that during the holidays. And a lot of times it's because it's with intention of respect. I don't want to bother somebody else on the holidays or whatever. And one of the things is, but if you're in a group of your friends and you say, I don't want to bother you in the holidays, it's like most people are going to say it's okay to do that. And the thing I always remind my clients of nowadays, if you call somebody, your name pops up on their phone. So if they take the call, that means they're willing to take your call. So don't isolate yourself. But when you have more pressure on you, then you need more support. You just need to balance that out. So make arrangements. Be sure you remind yourself that you can make those phone calls or those text messages, whatever you need to do, so that you stay in touch. We were talking earlier today, Alan and I were both talking about how just some simple text messaging really made a difference in helping us feel connected during things we were going through. And it really, and so do that too. Don't forget the basics of our program, and of our, that basically nobody has to do this alone, and nobody can. None of us can do this alone. We need each other.
So
And
true.
even if I could, I don't know if I'd want to. You guys
That's
are fun.
right. Absolutely. Speaking of joy, there's more joy in doing it together.
That's right.
I'm gonna watch Point Break later tonight. It's one of my
Oh, that's
favorite
a great
movies.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah, about the surfing bank
Is that the
robbers.
original one or the
Oh, the original one. There's only one as far as I'm concerned.
original one was with who?
Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves.
Mine and Dee Dee's Christmas Eve tradition, speaking of movies, has been for several years, as we watched the movie Christmas with the Cranks. Tim, what's his name? Tim Toolman,
Oh, Tim Allen. Tim Allen.
Tim Allen and
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, and it is hilarious. I mean, if it's corny as hell, but we just find ourselves laughing about that every year, and we enjoy watching that. So I love traditions like that.
Cool.
Yeah, well, Christmas is corny, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is. That's a good. Thank you. That's good, Patrick.
Good way to say it.
Christmas is corny. Let it be.
All right. Well, great show, you guys. Merry Christmas to you guys. I love you.
Merry Christmas to you guys. I love you.
Tend your life, tend your myth. Cultivate your narrative with whomever you